Okay, I want to turn now to the executive director of the Orthodox Union, Nathan Diament. He's been talking to folks about the rise in anti-Semitism across the United States and across the world in the wake of this war. Good morning, Nathan. Thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Of course. What is your biggest concern as this war drags on and we start to see more and more of these incidents across, especially across the U.S.?
Well, the primary concern we have at the Orthodox Union, we're the umbrella for Orthodox Jewish synagogues and schools across the United States, is the basic safety of students particularly on university campuses, but also on some public high school campuses these days. It's shocking, but the terrorist war that Hamas launched against Israel, against innocent Israeli Jews, has sparked unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism and attacks on Jewish students in the United States, and a terrible environment on many, many university campuses.
And we've seen a lot of backlash, especially against those university presidents who spoke to Congress just last week, especially the president of Harvard, for instance, who has been receiving and fielding a number of calls to resign. She says she won't. Harvard continuing to back her. But of course, we saw UPenn's president stepping down in the wake of those comments, specifically referring to the question of which and when it would ever be acceptable to call for the genocide of Jews, which I'm sure you're very you're well aware of. What's your response to that? What is your thoughts and comment on that testimony by those university presidents last?
It should, as Congresswoman Stefanik, who was really asking those questions in a very sharp way to the three presidents, said, it shouldn't be hard for three seeming educated leaders of so-called elite institutions in the United States be able to say no. Calling for genocide of Jews is not acceptable, and it violates our code of conduct on our university campus. And as you said, the president of University of Pennsylvania has resigned in the wake of this. The other two presidents, that of MIT and Harvard, are not resigning apparently. But I think if anything constructive is going to come out of it, which is what we have to hope for and what we have to work for, is that this incident has been so shocking that it's going to force real change on these campuses and on other campuses around the country. That the President Gay of Harvard and President Kornbluth of MIT and all of their colleagues who are running universities in the United States are shocked and feel the pressure to actually protect Jewish students on their campuses.
But of course, we all know change takes time, especially when you're trying to change the ideas or perhaps minds of people who, it appears in this case, believe that they are supporting the Palestinian people and a cause that they believe is just. How do you change the perspective about either hurting people, and how much concern do you have about and for Jewish people across America today as this type of rhetoric gets spread really across our country and across many others?
Right. Well, ironically, we're talking about universities. It's about education. And it's about truth, right? I think where these universities went astray and where other parts of American society have gone astray is, everything is like on the one hand, on the other hand, right? Everything is, this side of the argument says this, we have to have the other side of argument that says the opposite of this. And we believe, certainly being a religious community, there's actually things that are true and there are things that are not true. And people in the universities need to be educated about truth. Thankfully, a majority of Americans, polling shows, still understand the basic truth of the war between Israel and Hamas. They understand that Hamas is a genocidal, evil terrorist organization which attacked innocent Jewish Israelis, murdered everybody from grandmothers to babies. And most Americans understand that Israel is on the side of truth and Israel is on the side of what's right, and Hamas is not. And that needs to be repeated, and that needs to be educated, apparently, or re-educated to the faculty and others on these elite university campuses.
We've heard this chant many times over the past several weeks, from the river to the sea, as pro-Palestinian protests erupt across the world in the wake of this war between Israel and Hamas. When you hear that, what does it mean to you as a Jewish person living in America?
Yeah, so that's a call for the genocide of all Jews out of Israel, right? It goes back to the previous point about education. So there have been video clips about people being asked on the street, oh, what river are you referring to and what sea are you referring to? And a lot of them don't even know, right? But the river is the Jordan River and the sea is the Mediterranean Sea. And if you're saying from the river to the sea, you want it to be Jew free. You want Israel to be free and liberated from the Jewish presence. That's saying all of Israel from the Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea is where the Jews should be cast out of. And this is what, by the way, the Arab armies of 1948, when Israel was first founded, and 1967 and 1973, they said, we are going to push the Jews into the sea. And now you don't have the armies of those countries doing this because thankfully Israel has a peace treaty with Egypt. Israel has a peace treaty with Jordan. But you have these terrorist fighters and their supporters saying the very same thing.
As this war continues, as 138 people still remain in custody of Hamas, and there's potential for growing concern, growing conflict there in the region as well, which many of us hope that isn't the case. For Jewish people across America, what's important for them right now to understand about this, and what is kind of the message, I suppose, about and across America that the Jewish people really want to, I think, say as this continues on?
I think the perspective from the Jewish community is, first of all, we're very grateful that the United States has stood alongside Israel in this conflict. The U.S. government, both the White House and Congress, on a bipartisan basis, have been standing with Israel in its fight against the Hamas terrorists, because we understand, and again, I think most Americans understand, this is not just a war between Israel, the state of the Jewish people, against Hamas terrorists. This is the front line of the war of Western civilization against those who want to destroy Western civilization. As these kinds of folks in Hamas and Al-Qaeda and other enemies in the Middle East say, Israel is the little Satan and the United States is the big Satan. And so the most important message is for America to stand with Israel, and for Americans to know that the people of Israel and the Jewish community here in the United States appreciate and are grateful for the United States and its people broadly standing with Israel in this terrible conflict.
Absolutely. Nathan Diament there, we sure do appreciate you joining the show. Anything we haven't asked you? Anything you'd like to add?
I think the only thing I would add would be if you want to support Israel in this fight, the easiest thing you can do is call or email your member of Congress right now and tell them to stay strong and to keep standing with Israel, because they hear from folks who don't have that view, and they need to hear from good people in America who want to see the United States continue to support Israel in her fight against Hamas.
Nathan Diament there. He's the executive director of the Orthodox Union. We appreciate you for joining the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.